And welcome back, everyone, to another edition of the Sports Frenzy podcast. Phil Penarski here, joined once again by our News 8 sports correspondents, Dean Holzwarth and Andy McDonald. We were already planning to open up the show talking about the Detroit Tigers, but we even have more of a reason to talk about them as Game 1 of the wild card series against the Cleveland Guardians just wrapped up. The Tigers took home that victory by a score of 2-1. We're going to obviously talk about the massive collapse in the AL Central coming up, but it does feel pretty good to be able to start this show on a more positive note. Obviously, everything happening in the regular season for the Tigers, but you got to feel pretty good starting this playoff series 1-0. Guys, just initial reactions to that Game 1 victory for the Tigers.
Yep, win is a win. I mean, if you're able to get it done in the postseason, that's really all that matters. It's a whole new slate. Everybody's 0-0, right? But like I was kind of saying, just baseball's weird sometimes.
Right.
As the season goes along, I mean, the Tigers obviously is a way different situation, which we'll talk about the historic collapse. But when you do blow a lead, sometimes when you get that fresh start, I mean, you could see it when these guys celebrated on Saturday night. It seemed like they were relieved, like a little bit, like a little bit of air was let back into them, and maybe they could play a little bit more loose. I don't know if that game was necessarily exactly that. I mean, you're talking about a 2-1 finish where they only got a run in the first inning off of a hit, and then it took a bunt. The Tigers bunted twice today, so I think that was very interesting. Trying to give Cleveland a little bit of a taste of their own medicine, which was good to see after the way that Cleveland got their one run, because gosh, that felt like it was going to be the sixth inning from a week ago.
Right.
And it just was so crazy. That's the thing. Like, as much as crap as we want to give some of these hitters, it's like at this point, what is this, the seventh game in like a 3-week stretch that they played against each other? These teams know each other so well. You know the pitching's going to be good. I mean, that over-under line was at 6 today, and it was like, geez, that's like...
I thought that was way too high.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy that it stays under that easily with these teams. But, yeah, good win for the Tigers, nevertheless. I'm not going to, go as far to say, this is just like 2006 where they blew the division lead and can make a run, because I need to see a little bit more out of other people than, obviously, the most dominant guy in baseball on the mound, Terry Skubal, 13 strikeouts today, I believe it was.
14.
That's 14. Wow. Okay. So that's,
sorry.
That's just incredible. I mean, seriously, it's unreal. I think, I don't know the last time a Tigers pitcher did that in the playoffs, but it's pretty crazy. So, he's dominant. Get Casey Mize on the bump tomorrow. We're recording this the day before. So, we'll see what they're able to do, but it's definitely the first time we're able to talk about them positively, in a long time.
In a very long time.
Yeah. So it's good to see them win a game.
Yes. And I think that's the one thing you touched on, Andy. I think AJ Hinch talks about it, 0-0, right? That's the record right now. So it's a fresh start, a new slate. And, to me, the Tigers need to win this game, right? If you don't win this first game with Skubal, it's probably going to be tough to win the next two with Mize and Flaherty. I think this was a must-win for them, and Skubal went out and did Skubal things. 14 strikeouts, tied the playoff record, set a new strikeout postseason record for him, and I think tied the Detroit one back in the 1970s.
Wow.
That's what I saw. So, just a great performance by Skubal. Like you said, they didn't do much. It was kind of the game I expected, right? You had Gavin Williams on one side, dominant pitcher. I expected a pitcher's duel, and that's exactly what you got tonight.
Absolutely. And it's got to feel pretty good, especially for Tigers fans, seeing Skubal back to really that dominant force that we've kind of grown accustomed to seeing. Like you both said, 14 strikeouts, mowing down. And he went long. I mean, he almost went 8 innings, which is a huge help.
In that moment, I was like, gosh, leave him in for one more out. But, it's a lot of pitches.
Exactly.
Yeah. 107, I think it was.
But that's the crazy thing about him is he, on the mound, he always is, anytime the ball comes at him, he's always stopping it. He's got that big body and, your natural reaction. He would have got a double play there. That was going right to second for an easy double play. So he would have got the rate if he wouldn't have made that play on his own. But
kind of a soft toss, too. You guys think that was a soft
throw?
Yeah.
He was
like, throw the ball like you throw a pitch.
Those kind of plays out there with the way it's went in Cleveland for them, it's got to be in their head a little bit. I mean, he walked Austin Hedges twice today. Come on, that's the bottom 3 hitter in baseball. There's just certain things, but nevertheless, that shows how good he is to get through that, right?
Absolutely, definitely. And obviously, the Tigers are not done. They still have at least one more game to play against these Guardians, and that's going to kind of lead into this next portion that I want to spend time on. Is obviously they got at least one more game, potentially 2 more games against Cleveland. With that in mind, I mean, do we see this as how big of momentum, I guess, are we really attributing to this Game 1 victory? Because again, they're still playing at Cleveland. Because I feel like that is another element to this whole thing, what happened in the regular season. And there's too many different variables. But as far as this Game 1 victory goes, how much momentum are the Tigers really carrying into Game 2 and 3?
I think a lot of it. And, I was going to say something to you earlier about this. I honestly don't mind the Tigers being in Cleveland. All right.
Really?
I think there's so much pressure on a home team. especially in the postseason, right? Like they're expected to win at home, all right? And so you saw what the Tigers did to Houston last year. So I just think there's an enormous amount of pressure put on the home team in the playoffs. And that's why you see some of these road teams come in, there's no distractions. They can go in, just play kind of loose and play ball. And so, like, I'm actually okay. I think it is kind of a silly kind of rule where all 3 games are in Cleveland, but, it is what it is. But, like, I think for this series, I think it's going to favor the Tigers.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a huge momentum push for them just to get the win in game 1 and, like, kind of get that monkey off their back. Like, you got one, but this is, I picked the Tigers to win this series in 2 because I think that no matter how bad it is towards the end of the season, sometimes when you get hot, even if you get hot at the right time, as people say, Cleveland was hot for just a really long time. I mean, that all being said, they definitely come out here and win these next couple of games. It's not impossible, but I just like the Tigers' chances a little bit more with like the mental reset of they made the postseason. I think they have the better team at the end of the day. It's tough to win in Cleveland, but you get that first one out of the way, it feels like a lot's off of you. And maybe they can actually get the bats going a little bit more tomorrow. I think that's going to be a big deal because Casey Mize has been great in September, and he's had a heck of a season. I think he deserves some credit for that. He's 14-9 with a around 3.5 ERA, so that's a really, really good season from him. But he's not going to give you a Skubal almost 8 innings, 1 run. I don't think so. They're going to have to bring it a little bit more on offense. But I like the way it's heading for him right now.
Absolutely. We're going to be obviously keeping a closer eye on these next couple of games and really just how far the Tigers can keep going this postseason. Hopefully, we're still talking about them next week, still, competing in the postseason. But let's kind of turn back the clock a little bit because we didn't really spend too much time talking about it, but just... epic collapse is still kind of underselling it, just kind of what we saw out of the Tigers really these last couple of games. We touched on that they really needed to win some of those games against Cleveland in the regular season at the end of the year and just couldn't. Blew the AL Central lead, ended up just getting that wild card spot. Another year of not claiming the AL Central. Again, we're trying to stay positive and we have some good news, but again, the mind always just goes back to really these past couple of weeks, and it's just been so tough. And I guess kind of when everything happened and the final games have been played and we saw Detroit coming in at second place in the AL Central again. Just thoughts on the regular season and just how it all came to an end.
Yeah, no, it's a brutal collapse. That's why nothing is like made up for yet. I think if you're a Tigers fan, it's like going into this postseason, I don't think you ever would want them not to make it. And I've seen so much about like, should they have celebrated? Shouldn't they have celebrated? I don't think there's anything wrong with celebrating making the playoffs. Like at the end of the day, you got to try to change your mind around a little bit. If you just don't celebrate, I guess, at all, then it just kind of gives away that you're just being negative and feels like you're done. So it's, for them, congrats on still making it, but it is the most backdoor job in MLB history. Seriously, there isn't one that I can think. Houston still tied them at the end of the year with that win in the last game. And if they didn't win on a 1-0 game in the middle of the season where they won on a walk-off walk, and that was that Hunter Brown-Tarek Skubal duel that one night, that is basically what got them into the playoffs, which is crazy when you think about it. But yeah, it's a historic collapse. I know that it kind of frustrated me on the last day without them... With like the pinch hitting situation. They had Jake Rogers come up in the 9th, and they had guys on 1st and 2nd. I know you don't want to get anybody hurt, but like if you do win the division, you get the home field. Like I feel like they should have pinch hit there and tried a little harder. So it's a little frustrating with how they handled that, even at the end of the year when they did blow the division, because at that point Cleveland was losing. So yeah, it's been horrible. Really, it's not even just losing the division. They should have been in a place to get the 1st or 2nd seed in the AL with how good their record was. Yeah, it was historically bad, but again, it's a new season. They can make up for it now, I feel like, to a lot of fans if they do play better in the playoffs. But it's never going to – if they don't, it'll never not be talked about. Around here at least. I feel like them making the playoffs saved them, and the Mets doing what they did definitely took a little bit of heat off the Tigers.
Right. Yeah.
But, like, gosh, man, first time in 10 years, you got to win it there. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Well, and that was kind of the thing, is that not only did they end up not winning the division, but again, they could have had one of those higher seeds too, and really even skip the wild card round altogether. And now they've not only got to play on the road in the wild card series, but they're going to have to play on the road. They're not going to have home field advantage throughout the entire postseason now.
Yep.
I'm okay with that. Like I said earlier, to me, like, they went 7-17 in the month of September, right? Like, no team has made the playoffs in the World Series era when a team has finished that poorly in September. So I'm just happy that they made it, because after Friday night watching the walk-off by Boston, I was like, they're getting swept and we're not making the playoffs. So obviously that Saturday game was huge for them to clinch, and I'm okay with them celebrating. Listen, guys, it's a 162-game season, okay? You deserve to be in. You can backdoor all you want, but like you should celebrate the accomplishment of going 162 games and being one of a handful of teams to make the postseason. So like I'm always okay with celebrating.
Yeah.
They did what they had to do in the first 2 months, and yes, they have obviously had a very bad slide the last couple months, but the bottom line is they made it, and now anything can happen. Any team can go out and win the World Series, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And kind of to Dean's point earlier, just touching on that, it's kind of good that they're not at home in Detroit playing these games because it takes off some of the pressure. I mean, in a weird way, are we maybe thinking that them blowing this ginormous, I mean, is that maybe a good thing kind of going into the playoffs? Kind of giving them a kick in the pants a little bit, just saying that, you guys had a great first half and, you've shown spots here and there when you guys are a dominant Major League Baseball team, but you're not as good as maybe you think you are, and you're going to need to play even better in the postseason. I mean, does that kind of maybe wake them up a little bit more, or do you think, again, it's just all negative, I guess, blowing that lead?
No, I think it did wake them up. I just literally think, bottom line for me is it was just a restart, right?
Yeah.
Like, especially after today's win, they're not thinking about what happened the last 2 weeks of the season. They're not thinking about losing the division. They're kind of focused on the here and now and, winning in Cleveland, hopefully on Tuesday or possibly whatever the case may be,
Yeah,
right?
it's only up 1-0.
Right. Sorry. So that's, to me, like, that's the mindset. They've forgotten about that, and it's just a restart for them.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely, it's not good to blow the division lead. I just, again, like I've kind of been reiterating since July when things started to go bad to start the second half. I just feel like sometimes when you do stumble all the way down the stretch, you still can do good in the postseason because baseball is just that kind of sport. Like, it's a long season. There's a lot of waves, and then things get weird when it gets to the postseason. Teams choke, and Cleveland's been hot for so long that it just feels like they can get by the series. If you're going to ask me what they're going to do past that, I don't think they have a chance to beat any of the other teams that are out there right now. Maybe Boston if it was somehow them, but I think it'd be Seattle no matter what next. So that's a tough matchup. So just get by this one and then see what happens. But yeah, I don't think you ever want to be that bad because it shows a lot of your flaws at the end of the day. So eventually it'll probably come back to bite them. But right now, got to win. You never know what can happen at this time of the year.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, and I know there are still Tigers fans out there that are still mourning kind of the blown lead in the AL Central. I mean, as far as in your guys' opinion, I mean, how far would the Tigers need to go in the playoffs to maybe make up for that sort of collapse? I mean, you got to think of what was at stake and what they lost. I mean, at what point are we saying, okay, it's not necessarily a forgotten season. It's not a bad season. They can maybe still build off this. How far do they need to go in the playoffs for people, the general, I guess, majority of Tigers fans to really feel that way?
Well, I think coming into the season, the goal was to get to the World Series, kind of, right, or at least the ALCS. So I mean, I think that's still the only way that you're really going to make progress, I guess, is by doing that because they were in the ALDS last year. But still, I mean, considering everything that happened, if they made it to the LDS, it would. I think a lot more fans would push it off kind of as a wash. But yeah, I mean, if you're the Tigers, like, you just want to see something positive end here to end the year because this offseason is going to be absolutely huge for Scott Harris after what happened at the trade deadline, because that's someone that I kind of left out when we were talking about that because it's a whole other conversation. But yeah, he definitely didn't do enough at the deadline and didn't add enough. And there's kind of a reason I think this team is in the position. He got bailed out by Will Vest today, so he's got to love him right now. But yeah, it's I think getting to the LCS would be a gigantic success after the fall they've had, but ALDS is probably something you could live with going to next year as long as they talk about having a more aggressive offseason. That's for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think getting that revenge on Cleveland, right, the team that ran you down in the last 3 weeks of the season, I think beating them would kind of, just not ease the minds of Tigers fans, but they would feel a lot better. But I do think they can get to the American League Championship Series, and why not just go to the World Series, right? Like, I think a team that gets hot in the postseason kind of can stay hot. Yeah. And so that's where I'm looking at.
If they win the ALDS, I'm picking them to go to the World Series.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Yes,
they'll be so hot.
The momentum.
This team, when they were hot for more than almost a calendar year, but like better part of it, they were unbeatable. They were the best team in baseball. It's still got to be somewhere in there, but you got to see these bats start hitting more. Like, that's the thing that's getting them right now. They're not going to win every game 2-1. So just got to find more offense. That's for sure. Pitching seems to be there right now.
So. Hopefully they don't have to win every game 2-1. I don't know how many more games like that I can maybe watch this postseason.
In Cleveland, win tomorrow,
Stressful.
I wouldn't guess more than like 6 or 7 runs. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, do you guys want to venture out a prediction for the rest of this series? And we're not going to be talking again until after the series is over. Do you think Detroit is able to
Tigers
make
in
it?
Andy already told me.
Tigers in
He
2.
texted
I
me a little bit.
texted Dean this morning. I texted everybody. I said Tigers in 2, and I've been more negative and hard on them than anybody else. But that doesn't matter. Like when it comes to the postseason and things change, doesn't matter how dumb it is. I bet they win this series.
Yeah.
I could guess it.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I think Casey Mize is going to hopefully have a great game on.
He's been pitching good already.
On
I think he just
Wednesday.
find a way to
Yeah.
get a couple more runs tomorrow.
Yep,
That's,
I think
that's all you got to do.
they win on Wednesday, 5-3.
Yep.
All right,
I like
awesome.
it.
Well, those are the predictions. Hopefully, again, next week we're talking about the Detroit Tigers taking on the Seattle Mariners in the ALDS. But actually, the Tigers were only the second Detroit team to beat a Cleveland team this week. The first team was the Detroit Lions. They took down the Cleveland Browns at Ford Field on Sunday by a score of 34-10. They dismantled the NFL's best defense up to this point so far in the season, really torched them. Guys, I think it's pretty safe to say that the offense is in good hands, and Detroit is just rolling on all cylinders right now.
Yeah, Lions are definitely back, to playing the way that they did last year,
Yep.
You can look at the first game for an outlier, whatever the heck we've talked about with the first game. But no, I just think they're back to doing what they're doing. The defense obviously had some great takeaways. They got pressure on the quarterback on Sunday. Jared Goff was super efficient. Got St. Brown for a couple touchdowns. So, no, I think right now, I think Dan Campbell actually said this, hey, there's mistakes that were made. They can still be better. And so what I love was the fact was they didn't overlook Cleveland, right? Big win against Baltimore, against the Ravens, and short week, and they still came out and played well, and they got the decisive win.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think the Lions are looking like one of the better teams in the NFL again right now. I think what speaks to me the most is this was like a team effort. It wasn't just like the offense having to do it all, kind of like we got used to at the end of last season after the Hutchinson injury and everything that followed that. Obviously, the DJ Reed news isn't great right now, and that's going to be a concern. But what their defense was able to do, obviously the Browns' offense. There was a shot of Joe Flacco towards the end of that game. It looks like he doesn't even want to be there anymore. I think he's got to stop playing football. I don't know what he's doing, trying to if he was on a team that was maybe going to win a Super Bowl, maybe. But what do you? It's the Browns. I just don't get it. But anyway, the end of that game was just the Lions defense just completely took over, and then Khalif Raymond making the return that he did, and special teams. Yeah. They've just found a way to when their offense is their best. I think Jared Goff only threw for 188 yards. Yeah, 168 yards. And they didn't have a 100-yard rusher or anything like that in this game. The Browns defense might be the best in the league or is up there, so it doesn't surprise me that they did well against them. But they won by 24 points, and you're still feeling like they didn't play their best. So that's when you know the Lions are playing their best football, and they have everybody kind of working for them. And this game was a perfect example of that. And this is the top. What did we talk about coming into the year? It was these first 4 games, they could be 2-2.
Yep.
They're 3-1. And I know the Ravens obviously haven't looked as good as maybe they were supposed to be, but they've had an incredibly hard schedule to start the year.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. The way they started the year, the way they've been able to turn around this fast. You got the Bengals coming up, who still have a lot of talent in that team, and you got the Chiefs after that. If they can get through this first 6 with a 5-1 record, I don't know who. Maybe they will go 15-2 again this year at that point, I don't know.
Yeah, I can speak to this because after that Packer game, I was pretty down on the Lions, I would say. I just thought that something wasn't clicking, and you guys attested to it, and I'm fully ready to admit that you guys were right, that week 1 doesn't really count. It's kind of an extension of the preseason, especially when guys don't really get to play.
It counts. Just don't. There's not too much stock to be put into it. That's all.
That's what we were saying.
Yes. Yeah. But just as far as seeing how they've been these last 3 weeks now, are we back to thinking, I know I am, but are we back to consensusly thinking that the Lions are Super Bowl contenders? There's only really, you can say anybody can win the Super Bowl in any given year, I guess. But given the fact, just the 4 or 5 teams that really have a legitimate shot, would you place Detroit in that group?
100%. With where their coaching is at right now, and everybody's so worried about the Calvin Shepard and Johnny Morton, they thought maybe that was going to be tough for them to kind of overcome that, losing Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. It's been proven. 4 weeks is enough. They can definitely put up this many points. Their offense has so many different ways to beat you. So it's just hard to imagine that they're not going to be that good. It's really just about health. That's what it comes down to again for me. Reed is a huge injury. I know that he's not done for the season. He's going to come back at some point, but you can't keep like Hutchinson goes down twice on Sunday, and I think he joked after the game. He was like, he's like, give me 30 seconds. Like I lost my breath. Like I'm gonna get back up. Yeah. It's like
everybody out.
It just feels like every game he's got something that puts him down there on the ground for a second. But they got to avoid those injuries on defense because man, when they're playing right, this team is just so complete. The Eagles are going to be a tough team to get past, but it definitely feels like this team is primed to have another run at it. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely one of the top teams in the league right now. You know, like I think it's like you just said, Eagles, Lions, got Buffalo on the other side. But no, yeah, and Chargers obviously playing well. I think that they're a really good team. But no, Lions are a Super Bowl contender, and if they continue to keep playing the way they do, and have some to pick up some of these really tough road wins that they're still going to have face here in the next coming weeks, I think we'll be in good shape.
Absolutely. And hard to believe it, but we're already basically a quarter of the way through the NFL season now. Still 2 teams remain undefeated, being the Buffalo Bills and the Philadelphia Eagles, but the Lions are in a mix of just really a handful of teams that sit at 3-1 already. Hard to imagine any team maybe in that period. And, I would even say, the Eagles have had some questionable games. They are undefeated, and Buffalo is still undefeated, but they've had some issues as well. I mean, hard to pick any team at 3-1 that's had a better start to the season than Detroit. I mean, I would put them really up there with Buffalo and Philly as the 3 teams that have had the best start to the season so far. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Yeah, definitely. I think I just touched on it a little bit. Yep. Those to me are the 4 teams right now, or among the 4 teams right now that have been playing the best football and are one of the top teams and the ones to look forward to going forward.
Yeah, I think it's just Philly right now. You can't take them off the top, even though they play this crazy brand of football that isn't very interesting.
Yeah.
It's like they win games that way and they're not getting beat doing it. So yeah, it's right now it's them, and it's going to be awesome to watch the Lions play them here in a few weeks. That's for sure.
All right, awesome. Well, and the Lions have 3 games before their bye week. They're going to be taking on the Bengals this Sunday, then the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. That should be a good game. Even with the Chiefs' struggles, they had a big win against Baltimore last week, and then they take on Tampa Bay right before the bye week. Again, anything in particular we want to see against Cincinnati? They have looked dreadful, specifically these past couple of games without Joe Burrow. Defense should have a big game. The offense should also probably do really well. Anything in particular you hope to see out of Detroit going into Cincinnati?
You guys will probably laugh at me, but go get Russell Wilson, because they just need somebody that's going to throw a deep ball to those 2 guys. That's one thing he can do. He proved it in week 2. I think they should go make a trade because, gosh, Jake Browning looks horrible. So if that's still what they're going against next week, yeah, the Lions should win this game, kind of like Denver did. Like Denver didn't even play that well again last night, in my opinion. They were okay on offense. Bo Nix looked good at times, not so great at other times, but. I mean, it'd take a really, really bad game and not being ready, which this team has not done under Dan Campbell against any opponent. I find it hard to believe they won't win by a lot next week.
Right. Yeah, same thing. Like have that consistency, kind of have that carryover from last game and don't overlook a team, like I said earlier, going into the Kansas City game. And I don't think that this team is built like that.
Yeah.
So I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, right now as it sits, according to one sports book I'm looking at right now, the Lions are 8.5-point favorites over Cincinnati. Does that feels kind of low, honestly?
It's at Cincinnati, right?
Yes, it's at Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty.
Well,
accurate.
because you usually get the 4 points being at home. So if it was in Detroit, it probably would be 12.5.
Yeah.
Right.
So I agree.
I like
with
that. Hey, Phil, real quick, what are the odds for the Minnesota Vikings to win the NFC North? Because that was Andy's pick.
Yeah.
So
How does that pick feel?
The Carson Wentz train isn't exactly ascended, but don't sleep on Kevin O'Connell. It's not done yet. But
I'm just kidding.
I definitely have changed my pick on that. I think it'll be Green Bay and Detroit going all the way till the end. But gosh, you look at what Green Bay did the other night.
Exactly.
What a crazy game that was. We could talk about that game forever.
I mean, things are opening up pretty well for Detroit. I mean, again, like I said, after that Packers game, I was pretty questionable, I guess, about Detroit and really where they stood in the NFC North. And now, I mean, they're tops of the division, obviously. And then, again, you just saw what Green Bay was able or unable to do. Right, the last 2 games just really struggled. And so, again, I
expected
feel
Detroit
like
to fix this and make the wild card. Like, that was my pick. I just didn't think this would come together this fast. It's overly impressive what Dan Campbell's been able to do.
And we didn't even talk about the offensive line, about how well they played. Again, no sacks the last 3 games for the first time since
it's crazy
a long time.
Like being that good after looking that bad in week 1. And I don't care if it's week 1 or not. It's insane how much they've changed it up that
100%.
fast. But that's the kind of players they have.
And I don't think he is necessarily the favorite because frankly wouldn't know how the voters are really weighing this. But Dan Campbell, and the fact that Detroit has been consistently pretty good, Dan Campbell's got to be in line for as coach of the year potentially. Just what he's been able to do as quickly as he is.
Should have got it last year.
Well, yes, obviously. But
Yes.
again, even more so this year, just what he's able to do. Again, there's so many question marks around new defensive coordinator, new offensive coordinator. He's able to just seamlessly bring them on board, and Detroit looks as good as ever right now.
Yep.
Yeah, no doubt. I agree with that. I mean, what Kevin O'Connell did last year was insanely impressive.
Right.
I understand why he was there at the end, but it's just 15-2, dominated the division that much, and won the game at the end of the year and beat Kevin O'Connell both times.
Undefeated on the road.
It's like you can't really deny what he did statistically against them. It's just you got to give him the win there. But
I agree.
And how quickly we all forget just how bad Detroit was for so long, just because ever since Dan Campbell's been here, they've been one of the top teams. And I think that just goes to show, again, just what he's been able to do there in Detroit.
Having a team be able to show up at Ford Field on Sunday and expect the home team to win is just not something that was a part of my life for the last 3 years.
And I've been around for longer than you guys. Trust me. I have been through it all.
Right.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're talking 0-16 and all those teams.
Yeah,
I mean, Jim Caldwell era was the only one that gave me any resemblance that they might win, and they got rid of him. So, I mean, it's been awesome.
Matt Patricia was a great hire after that.
Yeah, right.
Anyway.
Yeah, right. All right, awesome. Well, again, Detroit is taking on Cincinnati next Sunday. Should be a good showing for Detroit, and hopefully they walk out of there 4-1 heading to Kansas City for that Sunday night game. All right, guys, we've got a couple of minutes left and really want to spend this last little bit of time talking about the Ryder Cup. You both tuned in this past weekend. An awesome weekend for golf, right? I mean, even just the momentum, the vibe going on out there. I couldn't imagine being out there in person. It was enough for me on TV, honestly. But again, just a really great sports weekend yet again here.
And yeah, I got to watch. You said you watched Saturday. I watched Sunday. So for me, I didn't really get to see as much as I did work. I worked on Friday and Saturday this weekend, so I didn't get to watch as much of the team play. But what did I miss? I mean, geez, look, it was absolutely horrible for the USA, especially on their own soil like that, just to get dominated that bad. But what happened Sunday was just remarkable. I mean, the effort they gave to kind of bring it back. I feel like I've heard so many people say oh, they just got swamped and everything. It's well, in the end, they really didn't. I mean, they did make it close.
They made it respectable.
Yeah, it's frustrating that they lost, but if you were watching that last day, that was easily the most fun I've had watching golf. How interactive the players are now, and the crowd is Rory was giving the crowd a bunch of crap for those rubber ducks or whatever they were squeaking and stuff like that. And he had to stop play a couple times. But from all the times that I've watched it in Europe, it seems like their fans heckle almost just as much. So I really don't understand. Isn't that kind of a part of it? I don't know. But I understand New Yorkers maybe could say something that they wouldn't want to hear. But nevertheless, that's a part of the event. And Sunday, just watching all those putts going, DeChambeau getting that tie at the end after being down 4 was just absolutely incredible. Scotty being able to beat Rory head to head was pretty crazy. Even Henley's shot from the sand to give himself a chance there at the end was so crazy. And you thought, but Lowry put it inside of him. That seemed like that's another guy that really cares about that event, and he showed up at the end. So. It's just BS that they got that half point because of the injury. And if that didn't happen, it feels like the U.S. still had a chance because they had 2 people in the lead with 3 to go. The other person was tied. The other group was tied. Who knows? It could have been the most historic comeback ever, but it was really close. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'll be real quick with this, but Andy, as many putts as you saw the Americans make on Sunday, they missed them all on Saturday. All right, and listen, hats off to the Europeans, right? They played great team golf. I think that's one thing that. There has to be a better bond with the Americans, right? You could just tell the Europeans, Shane Lowry and Rory McIlroy and like Justin Rose, all those guys just get along really well. John Rahm, and you could tell they're having fun out there. And I just don't know if Americans have that same kind of unity. I don't know. That's a whole nother conversation. But super disappointing. And to the fans, I do think it was pretty ridiculous. Some of the things, especially that I heard on social media, that they said to Rory and the others and Shane Lowry, it was pretty bad, and just it puts Americans in a very bad light. And I don't think that's going to happen in 2 years when they go over to Ireland. But anyway, tough loss for the Americans on home soil, and hopefully we can get it back in a couple of years.
Yes, hopefully. But again, a great weekend of sports, and we're going to be keeping a close eye on the Tigers and Lions, and we'll be talking about Michigan and Michigan State next week as well when they are back in action. Dean and Andy, thank you both so much for stopping by today. We so do appreciate it. We'll see you next week.